Canadian diplomats just met with President-elect Trump's team in Florida to discuss the risk of imposing new trade tariffs and the northern border. The visit follows Trump offering Canada tax cuts if they agreed to become our 51st state. Former State Department senior advisor under Trump, Christian Whitten, joins us now. Christian, great to see you this morning. It's fun, and I think there's a lot of really deep conversations to be had about American expansion. The question is, how seriously do we take this idea of Canada becoming the 51st state of America? And I think the answer, Christian, is pretty seriously if they're running to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I think it's serious. Now, they're running to Mar-a-Lago in panic mode. Justin Trudeau, the left-wing prime minister who is probably on his way out, probably will lose office along with his party this year, already went to Mar-a-Lago. Obviously, what he said and offered wasn't sufficient for Trump because Trump has been sort of having fun, I think, on Truth Social, on Twitter with this. You know, it's not a bad idea if you take the central provinces, if you take Alberta, Saskatchewan, parts of Manitoba, and if you take British Columbia, excluding Vancouver, which is very left-wing, those states make a lot of sense and would be a natural part of the United States and a link with Alaska, maybe with Greenland. If you take all of Canada, you're going to get a lot of lefties, a lot of socialists, some French speakers, and you're going to make America harder to govern or more liberal. So, I don't think it's a terrible idea, and I think a lot of those central provinces might like to be governed by Washington or at least have more self-governance rather than the pinkos in Ottawa who are unpopular.
I think that's such a great point, Christian, and it's one that needs to be highlighted. It actually ties into this culture debate that's been raging with Vivek and Elon. You don't just absorb a new country unless they can be absorbed into your culture. That's a bottom line truism, and maybe parts of Canada can. By the way, Jean-Sébastien Comeau, spokesman for Canada's new finance minister, Dominic LeBlanc, said Minister LeBlanc and Minister Joly had a positive, productive meeting at Mar-a-Lago with Howard Lutnick and Doug Burgum as a follow-up to the dinner between the Prime Minister and President Trump last month. I want to also transition to this, because if we're going to talk about American expansion, I actually love the instinct by Trump. Greenland, Canada, Panama, if it makes sense for the United States. Can you talk to me about the Panama Canal? What is it about China and the role they're playing at the Panama Canal that has Trump's attention?
Two things about the canal. Well, one is Chinese companies like Hutchison Whampoa, which is Hong Kong based. And as you know, Hong Kong is just another Chinese city now. The Beijing extinguished press freedom there, threw people like Jimmy Lai into prison who owned a pro-democracy paper. So you have, anyway, these Chinese companies that basically operate the ports of the canal that we built at great expense and at great cost of life. Lots of people died of malaria. That's sort of the concern number one. China also owning a port now, a super port in Peru, so it's extending its tentacles into our southern hemisphere. And then also, basically, Panama is charging tariffs. They're non-tariff barriers to trade, but exorbitant fees for ships to transit the Panama Canal. U.S. ships, whether it's the military or ships carrying commercial goods, sometimes these fees can go as high as $400,000 during ordinary times, and in extraordinary times they can go up to $4 million. So these are things that have to be corrected in Trump's view.
Okay, one last quick question for you, Christian. I'm tight with 30 seconds, but I know you can answer it. What does Greenland offer to the United States? If that were a serious piece of American expansion, what would we get out of Greenland?
Well, they would get something and we would get something. As climate changes, I believe naturally, it's easier to exploit natural resources in Canada, and especially if you have U.S. capital and the resources there. Greenlanders who are ruled by Denmark, really mad at their high cost of living, we can help make them rich. If they had an Alaska-style trust fund where they get revenue instead of the government from natural resource extraction, they could all be millionaires. So they would be better off and we would be better off.
All right, good stuff. Fascinating discussion that I think too many people are dismissing as crazy talk. You know, crazy talk used to be what drove the world forward, Christian. So I appreciate the instinct from Donald Trump and your enlightenment this morning. Christian Whitten, thanks a lot.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.